it's Abby. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 24 terrifying TikToks. As always, if you guys come across any terrifying TikToks you'd like to see me include in a future video, please tag me in them. My links are down below. Please check out my Instagram and TikTok. I do lots of crazy special effects makeup over there. I think you guys would be interested in if you're interested in spooky content. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Click the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And other than that, let's get right on into the video. Our first TikTok is from the user Amanda Please. She shares with us that while she is at work this specific day, she is having trouble being followed around by a negative entity.
So I'm on my lunch break right now. Just about 10 minutes ago, I went to the back warehouse because we had gotten an order in and I had to let the driver in. And as soon as I walk back there, I can feel this energy that was in there. And it was a negative energy. So I tried to get through there as fast as possible because I did not feel safe. And as I'm back there, I just get this wave of nausea. And I'm like, okay. So I immediately got out of there and I was like, I didn't have my phone with me. And I'm like, I need to get my phone because I'd feel much safer if I had it with me. So after that, I take my lunch and I feel this thing with me, like it's following me. And I just did not feel safe at all. And I feel still really nauseous. But I'm like gonna force myself to eat because I haven't eaten since this morning and it's almost 4 o'clock now. But yeah, it just hit me like bam, and I'm like, oh god. I of course forgot my sage spray. So luckily I have my empath protection oil to keep this energy off of me. But yeah, that happened. And then earlier this morning, I was cleaning the windows outside, and I heard my boss talking on the walkie, but it was kind of muffled, because sometimes it will, like, I'll hear, like, a few words, and sometimes it doesn't fully go through. So I walk back into the building, and I'm looking at my coworker that was standing there, and I was like, did you say something on the walkie? She's like, no. And I thought it was my boss, but if we don't reply, we'll re-say what we want to say, and nothing came through, but it sounded like my boss, and it sounded like she was saying, blah, 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 Amanda, my name, so, that was weird too. I'll update you guys as the day goes on if something else happens, but, keep me in your prayers. Until then, I'm going to try to eat and not throw up.
There's not really much more on her profile other than this. It kind of makes me wonder, like, first of all, what she does. I feel like that would help me get a better mental picture on this whole thing. At first, I thought maybe she was a nurse because her shirt kind of looked like scrubs, and then I realized that that is not the case. She's talking about, like, a warehouse and getting a shipment, and it seems like she's around other people a lot, and I'm wondering, like, who else has had an experience with this kind of entity. If it seems to be following her around and kind of draining her energy and making her feel sick, it's really interesting that it seems like she's almost on her own in this situation unless she's too afraid to ask anyone about it. Or it could honestly just be like she's having a bad day and a spirit decided to kind of take advantage of her because they could tell she had like lower energy levels and was more susceptible to what they were trying to do. I really don't know, but I'm really curious about this whole situation. I wish there was more information, but it just feels like, yeah, something's like attached to her at work and is trying to like suck her energy. Our next TikTok is from the user Sincerely Sierra 24. She shares with us that when she was a child, she had kind of an imaginary friend that she has now realized was probably a spirit of the former owner of her childhood home.
Want to hear something crazy and suspiciously paranormal that my mom just told me? Cool, I'm gonna tell you. So apparently when I was a little kid, like I would have been like under 5, we lived in this house by the river, and this house before we moved in was just like a shack. right? It was just a shack there, and the previous owner had died there. My parents, they bought it, they remodeled it, and that's where we were living. Well, apparently, I had an imaginary friend, and this friend's name was Weedy. Weedy was an older man who apparently, according to me, had dark eyes. And Weedy would do everything with me. We'd hang out, I would talk about him, and he was just my imaginary friend. And my mom let it go on for a little bit. And apparently one day she just got a little spooked. And so she said, it's time to say goodbye to Weedy. And so we had to have this whole thing where we said goodbye to Weedy and let him move on to the next thing. But now in my adult brain, I'm like, that seems a little vaguely paranormal, right? That like my mom, who has seen ghosts in her life, and I've seen ghosts in my life, now I'm like, was that a ghost? Like, I don't know the name of the person who passed away in the house before we moved in. But yeah, it was very, very suspicious. So please do me a favor and stitch this with a story that maybe you found out as an adult of something creepy or like paranormal that happened to you as a kid, because I would love to know now that I'm hearing new lore about my own life. It would be kind of reassuring to hear from someone else.
I always think it's so interesting when kids have these like imaginary friends or are talking to this person, and it actually kind of relates back to a real life human being, whether it be like a great grandparent or the previous owner of the house. Obviously, in this case, we're not 100% sure that that's who she was talking to because we don't know his name to compare it. But honestly, I feel like it really would make sense that that's the case. If she's talking to an older man, and it feels like he probably just wasn't ready to leave the house yet. And when her mom told her to tell him that it's time to go, that's when he felt like it was his time to pass on and like explore the afterlife a little bit more. It seems like he just kind of had a hard time letting go and wanted someone to be friends with before he was ready to delve further into this new plane of existence he was on. I think it's kind of a sweet story because obviously there was nothing harmful or even scary about it. Obviously the mom was a little bit concerned and freaked out by it. I feel like anyone would when their child is like talking to some unknown creature, and it seems like it's getting a little bit more than just an imaginary friend. Obviously overall it was, harmless, and I feel like she herself didn't seem to be scared at all by it if she considered this thing her friend. So overall, I think it's kind of a sweet story, but it just like amazes me how time and time again kids are always like just showing us more and more proof of paranormal. Our next TikTok is by the user Amber Nuno. She shares a story about a time when she was in class and she was almost possessed by some sort of demon.
Tell me, what's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life and why you still think about that moment?
Okay, so this one thing happened to me like many years ago, and I think about it all the time because I just can't believe it happened. But essentially, I was in math class and I was in university at the time, and like I was in an old building of this school because this school is like a really old school, right? And like the first floor of the building is like underground technically. So I was sitting in the back of the class. Behind me, like this wall would have been a window, and this window halfway to it is filled with dirt because it's underground, and above that are hedges, like maybe to here the hedges start, the roots of the hedges behind that. So there's not like there's someone behind me. And I'm sitting in math class and I'm just like bored out of my mind, just doing this thing. We're about to start working on problem sets or whatever, and working individually or in groups or however, right? And I'm looking at my professor speaking, giving out these instructions, and all of a sudden my hearing goes out, like a ringing in my ear, but both my ears go out. Okay, I can't hear anything. And I'm looking at the professor and I'm looking around and I'm like, I see people talking, but I can't hear anything. And all of a sudden, behind me, there's this like breathy, just insidious voice saying the most god-awful things that I'm so glad I can't remember now. And it lasted probably like a minute long. And when my hearing came back, I was so terrified. I literally was like panting, like my heart rate was like elevated, and the person directly next to me, which is not somebody that I knew, just looked at me with the most like, are you okay look. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm over here like I'm fucking schizophrenic. Like I I need to check myself into the psych ward. Like, literally, I was so scared. I've never had anything happen to me like that. I ran to the bathroom, but then I was scared to be alone, so I went back to class, and I broke out my prayer book. I was praying to, like, St. Michael the Archangel to fucking save me. And I started going to fucking therapy again, because I was like, I'm schizophrenic. Like, I don't know what the fuck just happened to me. Like, da-da-da. I'm not schizophrenic, and nobody can explain why that happened to me. Anyways, I have a lot of really weird experiences. I've had a lot of creepy fucking experiences. So if you guys want more stories, let me know.
I really have no idea how to explain the situation. Like, imagine how scary that would be. Like, you could see people's mouths moving and know they're talking and you can't hear a thing. And then all of a sudden you just hear this, like, demonic whisper growl in your ear. It's so fascinating that it's like, this never happened again. This was just like a one-off, which always makes me wonder, what's the point? Is it just for, like, laughs at this demon or mischievous entity of some kinds, like, joking around and like laughing with his ghost buddies about how it's scaring this person? I don't know, because like literally what is the point of freaking someone out like that if that's all there is? It's not like some sort of attachment. It's just like a one-time, one-off thing. I guess like there's really no way to explain these things, I guess. But obviously, you know, like you can kind of hear muffled voices outside of a window, someone standing on the other side, but it doesn't seem like that's what the situation was. It sounds like it was like right in her ear and she could feel the breath on her shoulder. So I am like very inclined to believe that there was something extremely paranormal happening, but it just is like a wonder of why it happened. Like, what was the purpose? And it's definitely something that if this happened to me, it would sit with me for the rest of my life, probably. Our next TikTok is by the user Kentucky Mom of 3. She shares with us a story about a time she unfortunately was very ill and was being rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, but she was accompanied by some unexpected guests.
Okay, I've been watching all these stories and these people that of things that's happened to them that they can't explain. So I'm here to tell you my story, okay? I have epilepsy. I've had it since I was 25 years old. I'm 47 years old now. But I have the type that is the grand mal seizures. It's bad. When it happens, it happens. I do kind of know that it's coming on, but then again, I don't. So back up a year and a half ago, I'm at home. My husband's not home yet. I tell my daughter that was there, I was like, I don't feel good. Something's kind of off, not right. I'm standing on my porch. Next thing I know, I fall over into the landscape, crunch the landscape down, and I guess pass out. So I come to, my daughter helps me up. I'm like, oh, something's not all right. I'm calling my friend who's a nurse and call my husband, like, you got to come home. Get to the couch, have a seizure. And so from this point on, after I went to the couch, it's kind of, it's blurry, because if you have epilepsy or know someone that has epilepsy, after you have a seizure, even before, during, after, you don't know who you are, your head's swimmy, you're confused. I have the type that I wake up crying sometimes. Anyway, so they said the seizure went on for 20 minutes. I do remember coming to, I'm in the EMS. I don't know what they had given me because they thought it was allergic reaction. This story goes on. But I started having signs of a stroke because I ended up having Todd's paralysis, which can come sometimes to people who have really bad seizures. So I had all that. So they thought I had a stroke. So the wheels are turning. We have to hurry up. We have to get her somewhere. So I'm inside the ambulance, laying on the gurney or whatever, and I'm out of it, but yet I'm not out of it because I knew I was in the ambulance. I could hear my husband outside the door. I could hear the EMS women talking. There were two men. There was a paramedic woman and an EMS woman. They're talking and they're saying, where should we take her? What hospital? You know, should we flight out something? You know, we have so long because if she's having a stroke, we have limited time to take her to get the stroke team involved. As I'm laying in there, I'm like, I had this feeling of like, why are there other people in here with me? I couldn't see them. They weren't talking to me, but I had the feeling. Keep in mind, I am very intuitive. I could read somebody. I can tell them, you know, oh, you're lying, you know, things like that. But I'm laying there, and to the left of me was the presence of a lady. She was little, petite, solid white hair, about to hear, very nice. She wasn't talking to me, but I could tell the feeling that she was giving me was, it's fine. You're going to be fine. It's okay. Just wait and let them make the decision. You're going to be fine. Okay, so I'm like, I cannot believe. In my head, I'm thinking, I cannot wait to tell my husband, who I could hear him outside. And I was talking to whoever wasn't in the ambulance with me, like, where am I at? Where am I going? Why are you in here? You know, I kept saying that, like, why are you in here with me? Why are you in here with me? And I'm thinking in my head, like, I cannot wait to tell my husband that they've had other people riding here with me. This bill's going to be $1 million, and there's a woman riding in here with me. This must be some kind of pickup. That's what I'm thinking. Like, have they called all the people who needed to go to a different county hospital and said, come to her house? She's going to take it. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, it sounds off the chain, I know, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. And I started smelling. I'm like, the ambulance is on fire. I was like, no, it's not fire. It's cigarettes. Somebody's in here smoking a cigarette. This is insane. What kind of service do we have going on here? The whole time I'm like, my hands are strapped down in case I have a seizure again. You know, I can't move. They're outside talking. I can hear my husband. I could hear all these people. It probably wasn't as long as I thought it was, but in my head, I'm like, this is taking forever. So I could feel behind me a gentleman. And honestly, this guy smelled like smoke so bad because it was smelling up the whole EMS. And I'm like, I couldn't see him, but I could feel his presence behind me. He wasn't mean. He wasn't said anything like that. He was more like aggravated, like, come on, we got to go, we got to go. And more almost like representing me, like, we got to go, we got to go. But yet my feeling is towards him was like, here's somebody else that's catching a ride up there. What's he going for? Because he smelled like a big cigarette. I'm thinking, you should have changed your clothes. And I kept talking about clothes, and the EMS girl would say, you're fine, because she was responding to me when I was talking to just the general of who all I thought was in the EMS. Okay. He smelled like smoke. So much that he was such a heavy smoker in my state of whatever that I felt like his fingers, you know, somebody that smokes a lot, their fingers are just sane with nicotine smell. So he was kind of giving off the impression to me inside there of, we got to go, we got to go, we got to go. She's giving off the impression to me how she was making me feel of, it's fine, you're going to be fine, we will get there, everything's going to be okay, we've got good, you know, but both of them were giving me the reassurance of like these people that are with you, that are driving you, they're great people, they're going to be, you know, because I'm saying out loud, like, why are these people in here? Like I said, the paramedics answered me like, oh, honey, it's fine, you're fine. They're dismissing all this stuff. I get there to the hospital. I'm out of it. I kept thinking, just close your eyes and you will not feel or know that there's other people riding here with you. It won't make you mad. But by gosh, whenever you get to the hospital, you tell your husband that they had other people riding with you and you're not going to pay for the whole bill. They're going to split the bill. That is what I'm thinking. That is what I'm feeling. 100%. I would argue with somebody right now about that. I know is what happened. So I get there to the hospital. They get me out. A big team comes out because it's a stroke. That's what they think. It's a stroke. They're taking me to get a CT scan in my head. They got to stop everything. They're doing all the medicine, all the stuff that you have to do. So I get to where they take me to do all that, and the nurse is talking to me. They need me to transfer from the gurney to the bed. Nothing's broke. I'm just can't move this side, okay, because of the Todd's paralysis. So when I set up, kind of, and when they're pulling me, setting up, I look, there's a girl in the corner of the CT room or this triage room where all these people are fastly working on me with a dog. And I'm like, where have they taken me? First of all, I rode with a crowd full of people, like on a share bus or something. And now I get to this hospital and I have a little girl in here with a dog. What is this? And again, in my head, I'm like, what is she doing in here? What's wrong with her? And the dog is barking nonstop. And I remember telling the nurse, like, why is that dog barking? Well, honey, I don't know what you're talking about. She's dismissing the whole thing. Whatever. I do my CT scan. Anyway, stayed on ICU for a week. People in there, everybody that came in there, I was telling the story. Everybody that came in there, and they're like, okay, Julie, you just had a lot of medicine. No, really, I didn't. So, back up, I get home. The paramedic reaches out to me. She's like, hey, just checking on you because we're friends. This is what we put down at what it was. I told her what they did at the hospital, Todd's paralysis. And she said, I can't help but keep going back to what you were saying, who was with you. And I'm like, yeah. Why did you let him ride? I started digging into it. She said, I want you to know that both myself and the EMS, the lady that was driving, there was two of them. She said, you described both of our parents, her dad and my mom, to a T. We were too afraid to tell you anything or say anything because we weren't really sure ourselves because they both have passed away. That's all I'm going to say. I can't explain it. I don't know what happened. I know that they gave me a calm feeling. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think happened? What was going on? Let me know what you think. Comment below.
Honestly, this kind of scares me for her because I feel like if she's able to see what appears to be like these EMTs' parents or like a parent of each of them, that means that she was, you know, dangerously close to not making it. I mean, maybe that's not the case, but that's kind of what I'm getting from this. And so it makes me like scared for her that she was that sick and struggling that much that she was kind of like almost crossing over and able to see them, whereas, you know, maybe if she was completely fine she wouldn't have been. But it is a very sweet story in the sense of like it appears that they were watching out for her. It's not funny, but like kind of funny that she's horrified that it's like Uber pool to the hospital in her ambulance, and in reality it's actually like parents of these EMTs, like the ghost parents of these EMTs potentially, watching over her and making sure she gets to the hospital all right. Which, like, to me, just the idea of like an Uber pool for an ambulance is absolutely hilarious, but she was for sure that that's the kind of thing that was happening because there's these people in her ambulance and they were that lifelike to her. Another thing I wonder though is who that girl was with the dog. I feel like she didn't mention that, like the EMT said anything about her. So I wonder who she was. Maybe she was like somehow related to the nurse that was helping her out or something like that. And it was just kind of like all the family members of the people trying to help her that were checking in on her. I really wonder who the girl and the dog was. Overall, like it's kind of a humorous story in the sense that she's like okay now. So it's okay to be like, okay, like that's kind of funny that you're like wondering who these people are. And then also like really nice to know that there was someone with her, obviously other than the humans that were trying to help her, but like that there were people on the other side too that were like trying to keep her company and, you know, help her. Our next TikTok is from the user Morg's Hauntings. She lives in Appalachia, and in this video I'm going to show you she hears a distant whistle and unfortunately interacts with it.
Wait, what is that? So do you want to watch a movie tonight?
I'm terrified.
You want to watch a movie tonight?
Yeah.
What do you want to watch? Be something funny, right?
Probably.
What? You mentioned The Proposal last night.
Oh my god, I love
Do you want to watch that?
Proposal. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
I've seen quite a few of her videos before, and it seems like this kind of thing is very, very common in the specific area that she lives in, Appalachia. She is constantly posting videos of, you know, mimics and whistles and things like that happening. So it seems like this is very common for her, which I think is something that I personally could never get used to. But this shows even people who are like used to this kind of activity happening all the time have slip-ups and interact with things that they shouldn't. Whereas she's like, what is this? And then it sinks in. She's like, oh my God. And you know, her and her husband kind of do that thing where it's like someone overhears you like talking about something they shouldn't and you're pretending to like act normal. I think, you know, they did as best as they could trying to like act normal after that situation. But yeah, it's just so scary that like even people who are used to this kind of activity and experience it all the time have slip-ups and still accidentally interact with these negative things. Our next TikTok is by the user Jackie the Channel. Now this is one of two TikToks I'm going to show you talking about this new app called the GhostTube app. In this TikTok, she shares with us her experience and how she realized that people should not be using this app.
Guys, don't download the Ghost app. The one that you put on your phone and it's like the talking box and the ghost can speak to you and it picks up on all of the magnetic waves and frequencies around. Just don't do it. And let me tell you from my own experience. When I was younger, I used to have a lot of weird things happen to me. I'm a psychic medium now and an animal communicator. And I know better, but there's still an inner child voice in my head, my ego, that wants to touch the hot stove even though I know it's hot. And I did that with the Ghost app. And I don't know if you've seen it out on social media, but you turn it on and it picks up on these magnetic frequencies and energies around you, and it goes into your phone and is translated into words. So it's so people have crossed over, different energies or entities can speak to you. Now, I have worked very, very hard on protecting my energy and learning how to do that, especially with my animal communication readings. I have these practices that I do just to make sure that only good stuff is coming in. And everything in my soul said, do not try this app, because I know what can happen. But I thought, what if it was a good idea to have this app as a way to have additional information come in on top of what I'm picking up in my readings? I thought it would be a good tool potentially. But I kept hearing in my head, don't do it, don't do it. And I didn't listen. I wanted to do it anyway. So last night, couldn't sleep, download the app, mistake number one. Held it up to me and I asked, well, first I set the intention. I created a protection barrier and I asked for only my spirit guides to come in and nothing else. And I said, are my spirit guides here? And I left my phone there for about 2 minutes, nothing happened. And then all of a sudden I started getting the feeling in my body, like in my chest, energetically, the same way I would get psychic information. And I started feeling their presence. And then the app spoke and it said, undoubtedly. So my question was, are my spirit guides here? After about 2 minutes, I got the answer. And then a couple seconds later, undoubtedly came through. I was like, wow, that's amazing. But then I started to get this worrisome feeling. And I kept feeling like I needed to get off of the app. Like I shouldn't be playing around with this. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting a little bit anxious. The cats were kind of looking around and I'm like, okay, I'm getting that bad feeling. Then the app says, please stop. And I said, okay. Loud and clear, boss. Got off the app, never going back on it. And the biggest thing I want everyone to know is that what I've learned from this experience, I've been asking for clarity about whether spirits can be bad, if you will. And this experience educated me quite a bit. The way that it works is that by using these devices, you can open yourself up to lower frequencies. So it's not that there's bad ghosts, spirits, if you will. There's just spirits at a lower frequency. And if your frequency is up here and you're on the same wavelength, like, you know, with what I'm connecting with, we're all about here. If I invite in this frequency, it's like my cup is full and then I'm pouring my energy into these lower frequencies. And they're, as I'm told, they're like a parasitic sponge or a leech, and they'll latch onto your energy and kind of siphon it. So my spirit guides were warning me, like, please don't do this. They were actually just, I've never felt like I irritated them before, but it was like an irritated feeling, like, you know better. Like, why are you doing this? Please stop, get off the app. And that's all I needed. So this is just your PSA. Don't use that app without knowing what you're doing.
I personally hadn't heard of this until this TikTok, and then all of a sudden right after the second TikTok I'm going to show you next came across my feed, and I kind of looked into it, and it seems a little gimmicky, but it also seems like it maybe could work. It's kind of like hard to tell, but a lot of people are having crazy experiences with it. I, however, fully agree with her in the fact that this is probably something that people shouldn't be messing with, because it is just leaving you open to anything to come through. Honestly, I might not say it's necessarily as bad as a Ouija board, but I think, you know, messing around with things that you don't have any experience with and doing things like this isn't very good for, I guess, your energy and the safety of your house and those around you. Because again, it can just let in absolutely anything. You might have good intentions and you want to talk to a loved one, but you have absolutely no control over who decides to grasp onto that rope you're tossing out there and pull themselves into your world. I guess also my best recommendation, if you're going to mess around with stuff like this, it would be to do it outside of your home, preferably. I absolutely would never do any kind of investigation or, just even let one of these apps like run with a spirit box or something in my own home. That's just not the kind of energy I would ever want to bring into my home, but you still run that risk of having something attached to you or bring something along with you, even if you like go out somewhere to investigate or leave your home to try one of these apps. You still run the risk of bringing something back into your home, but for sure I wouldn't recommend at least using it in your home at the very minimum. So I do think it's very interesting though that she's saying that it's like her spirit guides were telling her to shut the whole thing down and stop, and warning her before something bad potentially could have happened and she could have let something negative in. Then that leads us into the second TikTok talking about this app that I'm going to show you by the user Veronica and the Baby Boo. She has an interesting take on this app as well. She shares with us that she is an atheist and doesn't actually think that she really believes in ghosts. However, she thinks that maybe this app was helping her communicate with her cat.
I am very weirded out right now, and here's why. I downloaded an app today that I saw someone using earlier on TikTok. Now, it's a ghost hunting app. I don't even know if I believe in ghosts. I am agnostic. But basically, the app listens, and if it hears ghosts, it tells you what they're saying. But like, there is a lot of downtime. It's a lot of silence and occasionally a word. Now again, I downloaded this for entertainment purposes only. So tell me why I sit down on the floor. I set my phone down on the floor. Veronica's on the other side of me. And the phone says, toy? Interesting. I happen to have one of her toys in my pocket. I pull it out. I throw it to play fetch. She runs to get it. But instead of coming back, I hear the phone say, "You can hear me?" And I look over, and she is in the other room sitting next to her toy and just looking back at me like this. And then, remember in middle school when you were walking through the hallways and someone would step on your heel? Well, I accidentally did that to her, and I almost tripped. And me and the phone at the same time said, "Are you okay?" What the? Does it communicate with animals? What? Then it started going on about something about consciousness. But for real, are my cats communicating through ghosts? Are my cats communicating through an app? Are ghosts pretending to be my cats? Are my cats ghosts?
I think this is a very, very interesting concept. I still would not try this app because, again, you don't know what you're inviting in. Whether your intention is to talk to one person or try and talk to your dog or whatever, you might let in something that you really don't want to be in your house. But I think the concept is cool that maybe somehow we can have technology that kind of reads like the brainwaves of our animals. Like maybe they're able to kind of communicate that way. I think obviously animals are very good at picking up on energy. My dog like notices. Sometimes he doesn't notice enough. There'll be an entire earthquake that he sleeps through. But other times he's like very, very aware of certain things and, stare at dark hallways in the middle of the night, which I'm not a fan of. I've noticed that he can certainly pick up on a lot of different energies. And it makes me wonder if maybe somehow there is something to do with that in this app and maybe some form of communication or some kind of spirit that is able to like share what the animal is thinking. Like obviously this is just a very rough theory based on this one experience, although I have seen a couple other TikToks of someone saying similar things, but it's obviously not proven or supposed to be the purpose of this app. But I think it's really interesting that on the flip side, maybe we could use ghost technology somehow to develop technology to better communicate with our pets. I don't know, but I thought this was a very interesting take, especially coming from someone who is agnostic, which I just realized I believe I said atheist when I was initially introducing her. She's agnostic, as I'm sure you heard her say in the video. But coming from someone who is agnostic and isn't really sure if they believe in ghosts, I think that says a lot that she is coming to this kind of conclusion on her own. But yeah, that is my coverage on the GhostTube app, and we will be moving on from that. Our next TikTok is by the user Diana, and she shares a Ring camera footage of what appears to be a spirit floating around by her front door.
Back! Can you smile? Say hi, Pepe. No. No.
I think this is really interesting. At the very beginning, I thought maybe it was like a snake, and then when it swirled around to the right side of the frame, then I kind of realized that it was, in fact, not a snake. But the shape of this anomaly is really, really fascinating to me. It's not like the normal orb shape. It's obviously very snake-like for sure. And I mean, I don't know. My Ring camera faces a hallway, and there's not much like nature-y activity going on in my hallway. So I don't have much experience with trying to like look at nature and like wisps of nature blowing in the breeze through my Ring camera. So I could be wrong. Like there could be, you know, a logical explanation for this. I don't know what grass looks like blowing through the breeze on a Ring camera because I've never seen it myself. It could be grass, but I personally don't think it is. So, you know, anyone who's more experienced with seeing like nature at night blowing in the breeze on their Ring camera, let me know if this looks like anything debunkable to you, like any kind of nature you've seen before, just kind of flowing by your camera. But I don't have too much experience seeing stuff like that, again, given the fact that I'm in a hallway. So I personally would like to lean towards the fact that it is paranormal or a little ghost just popping in to say hi to the baby or something like that. But who knows? Let me know what you think. Our next two TikToks are by the user Hello Balance. She shares with us that this year for Thanksgiving, her and her family went to her brother's girlfriend's family's house for Thanksgiving. And her brother's girlfriend's family's house happens to be an old Confederate infirmary.
Okay, so for Thanksgiving this year, my brother's girlfriend's family is hosting us in their house, which is beautiful. Like, it's such a beautiful house. It's not even a house, it's like an estate. It's so nice, but it's haunted. And I need to tell you guys about it because, oh my gosh, I'm like so spooked. So half of it was built in like the early 1800s, and then the other half, which is what I'm in now, was built in the 1900s. It used to be a Confederate hospital. It's huge. There's 2 guest houses. The basement is like a full restaurant. It doesn't operate anymore, but it operated up until 2016. And my brother's girlfriend's family moved in here like 3 or 4 years ago, and they bought it with everything in it. So like every single piece of furniture, everything is in here. The restaurant had like chairs and tables and cups and everything you would need to run a restaurant, a full industrial kitchen, giant refrigerators with still food left in them, like order tickets. It was as if like the people just stopped working and just never came back. Like literal order tickets were just still being made in the restaurant. And apparently this is like one of the most haunted places in Virginia. I mean, it's a beautiful house, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that they're hosting us and so grateful. It's been really fun. I'm just like so scared of that kind of stuff. Yesterday at dinner, the entire dinner, we were just talking about their different like spooky stories that they've witnessed since moving in here. And I was like, oh my God. And one of the rooms on the old side of the house is the punishment room, or the punishing room, and they used to put kids in there when they were either sick or in trouble. And it has all the original like furniture in it. I keep like looking behind me, I'm so scared. Anyways, I made my mom sleep with me last night, and then my dad slept in here, which is where I was supposed to sleep. My mom was on her iPad with her glasses on, and she put her iPad on the side table, and then she put her glasses on top, like she says she does every night. She puts her glasses on top of her iPad. And then I like plugged my phone in, we went to sleep. We woke up this morning, my mom's like, where'd you put my glasses? I was like, I didn't touch them. She's like, my iPad's here, but my glasses aren't. They were in her purse, but not in the case, just like thrown into her purse. And then my phone was unplugged
and the charger was unplugged from the wall. My phone had gone from 95% to dead. It was fully dead. Why am I so scared? Anyways, yeah, so I'll keep you guys posted on anything else, but I'm definitely spooked. Also, when I was sleeping, I kept feeling something like kind of like tug at like my hair and like tugging at my eye mask. But I was just like, don't do anything, don't open your eyes. So yeah, I barely slept because I was so scared. I feel like the ghosts know that I'm really scared and are like going to try to fuck with me more. But yeah, maybe I'll show you guys the creepy rooms. Happy Thanksgiving!
At first I was kind of wondering what would make this so haunted, and then it was when she said that it is like a Confederate hospital. I was like, that sounds about right. First off, anything that is war related carries a lot of energy with it. Anytime there is obviously, you know, weaponry used to cause harm to another individual, there is a lot of deep energy that is filling the place that this is all happening. It seeps into the ground and into the floorboards and just into the atmosphere of specific areas, which is why we often hear a lot of stuff about places in the original areas of the country that went through a lot of war and a lot of, you know, difficulties, that they tend to be more haunted because there is just a lot more negative energy and history there in the buildings and on the soil itself and just, you know, in the trees from everything that's been happening. So that being said, the fact that this was an infirmary of all places too, you know, there's a lot of different energies. You know, hopeful energy is someone's healing, and, you know, sad energy is someone has passed away. And then, of course, there is, you know, people in pain, and there's that kind of energy. So there is for sure a lot of energy on these grounds and in this building. I'm like fascinated by this. And quite frankly, I am surprised that really like the only specific activity that they've gotten was the glasses being moved and the phone being unplugged and dead. I am really surprised that that is it. But I still think it is fascinating nonetheless. We then go on to part 2, where she does a little get ready with me and gives us more background on the house.
Hey guys, get ready with me for a Bumble date while I tell you a little bit more about the haunted house that I stayed in for Thanksgiving and answer some of your questions. So as you guys know, I went to my brother's girlfriend's family's house for Thanksgiving, which is one of the most haunted places in all of Virginia. Usually I'm really not a history person, but I was just so intrigued by the history in this house. So the house was built in the mid-1800s, and then there was an addition added in the mid-1900s. The bed and breakfast was 5 stars, and the restaurant in the basement of the house was also 5 stars. There was a fully operating restaurant in the basement of the house up until 2016, and in 2016 it actually won Best Restaurant in Virginia by OpenTable, which is crazy. The previous owner had invested so much money into this restaurant and bed and breakfast that she couldn't afford to keep it running. It was 5 stars and it was really, really nice, but it was too expensive and she ended up losing a ton of money and filing for bankruptcy. So she put the house on the market, and it sat on the market for about 4 years before my brother's girlfriend's brother ended up finding it, and he's really into fixer-uppers and DIY projects, so he convinced his parents to go in on it together, and they put in a really low offer. The previous owner was so desperate to just get rid of it. She left all the furniture, everything in there, literally everything. The restaurant in the basement literally had order tickets still hanging up, food in the fridge that was now 4 years old by the time they bought the house. It was as if the restaurant was literally mid-shift and then just everyone left. The dishware, an industrial kitchen in the basement, tables, chairs, menus were still there. In the bed and breakfast, there was still robes with the logo on it. It's so wild. One of the main issues that the previous owner had was that she did not live in the bed and breakfast. She had, you know, her own home. So it was just really expensive to maintain this super high quality bed and breakfast and 5-star restaurant. and also have to pay mortgage on our own home and everything. So when my brother's girlfriend's family moved in, they sold their house and they just fully moved in, and they operate it as a wedding venue. So they host events and weddings. Like on Friday night, they had a 70-person event going on downstairs. They did keep a lot of the furniture, pretty much all of the furniture as it was when they bought it. They did some renovations. They renovated the kitchen. There was no real kitchen because the bed and breakfast had the industrial kitchen from the restaurant, so they didn't really have, a kitchen for just a family to use. So their new kitchen is beautiful, and they told me so many spooky stories. My brother's girlfriend agreed to come on my TikTok and make a video with me for you guys where she tells you the stories from her POV, because I feel like I won't do them justice. And I'm not gonna lie, this was my first paranormal experience and it was definitely spooky. My mom and dad and brother just thought it was cool and like funny. I was really spooked. Sadly, I can't post a house tour because Kylie's mom doesn't want the inside of the house on the internet. But Kylie will come on and tell you guys all the ghost stories. Okay, love you. Bye.
I will say that this part made it make a little more sense for me. I was a little confused how like a family was using that entire place as a house, but now it does make more sense that they also use part of it as like a wedding venue. I really wonder, like, I'm kind of bummed that it's not like a bed and breakfast anymore, because I feel like that would be so interesting to stay there and, see what you can experience just organically, without trying to catch anything. I feel like it would be a really, really interesting experience. So it is for sure a bummer that they had to shut down. But it's also interesting to me how it now being like a wedding venue, it introduces a whole different kind of energy to the property. It's like you go from like wartime energy back in the day to weddings in, 2024. God, it's almost 2025. 2024, 2025. It's a very interesting like mix of energies and situations for sure. Our next TikTok is by the user If You Like Tina Coladas. It's a very creative username. Her name is Tina and she shares a video, the caption, POV, you live in a haunted apartment, and shows activity in said haunted apartment. I love how nonchalant she is. That's the way you gotta do it. Ignore it. Ignore it. Don't give it energy. Don't feed into it. I mean, in this case, I'm assuming it's like a spirit that she doesn't know. It's not, some family coming to say hey or something like that. Otherwise, she would probably be a lot happier about it. But yeah, if you have unknown activity in your home, your apartment, whatever, don't feed into it. Didn't happen. The next TikTok is by the user The Hodgepodge Place. She shares with us experiences from a haunted house she lived in. With so much activity, she at one point didn't realize she had a squatter because she just assumed it was the ghosts.
I have lots of ghost stories too, but I'm gonna start with one. So the house I live in now was part of the Underground Railroad. So I have lots of ghost stories in this house, but I'm gonna tell a story about the old house. So one of the reasons why I didn't notice if doors were left open or lights were left on was because I had ghosts. So in that house, when after this whole thing happened, my brother got home from the Marines. He moved in with me for a while and he was living in my back room. And one time I used to travel all the time for work. I was not home. He calls me in like the middle of the night and I didn't answer. So the next day he was like, hey, did you come home last night? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm in Connecticut. And he was like, what? And he said, in the middle of the night, now mind you, brother, Marine, 6'3", 250, like huge dude, right? He heard a noise in the back. He was like, I heard a bang, bang, bang. He got up. He kept hearing the banging. He went in the main part of the house, went down in the basement, walked all around the house, thought maybe it was kids, something, went back, laid in his bed, heard the banging again, heard it was so bad, so loud, scared him. He got up in the middle of the night, went to the gym. Got up in the middle of the night and was like, absolutely fucking not, I am out of here. In that house, I used to lay in my bed and I would hear people walking upstairs. One time, we came home from my mom's house and there was a chair moved in front of the TV and I had to tell my kids, like, it's okay. Oh, and with the banging, like 2 days later, I was sleeping, my kids were sleeping in the living room, and we heard the banging again. My brother comes running from the back room. He's like, I told you, you heard it. We checked the whole house. We could not find anything. It sounded like something was banging on the walls in the basement. So we had to like talk to the ghost. We'd be like, hey, stop doing this. You're scaring the children. One time the side garage door, we came home, the side garage door was open. So again, here we are scared, thinking, I don't know, we have a squatter or someone, whatever. Doors were left open, lights were left on all the time. Now that's just the old house. In my new house, it's insane. I have a dirt floor basement, an old maid's entrance, and I have had ghosts here since. I'm gonna have to make this like a multiple series thing.
It just seems like there's so much going on in this place. I mean, from the banging on the walls, there's this grown man who's like obviously large in stature, so he shouldn't be afraid of too much, and he's like freaking out about this activity. And he like at first thinks it's her, and then once he realizes what it is, he's like freaking out. I think that always says a lot when people express like, oh, you know, this person who wouldn't normally be scared of things and they're freaking out over some paranormal activity. That really says a lot about the energy that's going on in there. Between that and just like the banging on the walls and the fact that it's like freaking the kids out, there's just so much going on here. And then she goes on to elaborate that she now lives in another haunted house. However, I could not find a video on said second haunted house, so I will keep my eye out for it to include in a future video. Our next TikTok is from the user Jason, and in this video we see some weird figures watching him from outside. It is so scary, just the like outline, especially of the girl on the left, the way she looks. Would freak me out for sure if I saw that, especially if I didn't know who they were. It's one thing if it's like a friend pulling a prank, which would be kind of freaky, but if it's random people you don't know, that's even worse. And if it's not actually people, that is, I was gonna say even worse, but I'd say it's probably like equally as bad as strangers, because you never know what either of those things can do. Again, I probably think that this is probably for entertainment purposes, but it is scary nonetheless. Our next TikTok is by the user Squall Box, and she shares with us that she is staying at a house, dog sitting, a place that she has been many times before and has always been comfortable at, until this time when she experiences extreme paranormal activity that is really, really freaking her out.
So I am pet sitting, and there is some sort of evil, malevolent, demonic spirit in the house with me. It is currently 8 o'clock in the morning. I barely slept last night. I mean, I was trying to go to bed at 10, I couldn't fall asleep, and so forth, and I've been up and down the entire night. So I've been here 4 days so far. I have stayed in this house so many times, at least 50 different times, and I've never experienced anything that I did like last night. So my first night, it was pretty uneventful, nothing happened. The second night, I started hearing something that sounded like a dog on the stairs right outside my bedroom, and I thought it was weird, but it stopped, and I was like, I know I locked the dogs up downstairs, so there's no dogs running the stairs. There's no way. The second night it happened again. It was a little louder, but again, I didn't investigate because it stopped so soon, and I'm like, if there was a dog up there, I would hear it clicking in the hallway. Last night, it was 8:30 at night, and I just did my skincare. I was sitting in bed, and I heard what sounded like a dog running up and down the stairs. This went on for 20 to 30 seconds. I heard nails clicking. I heard the stairs creaking. It sounded like it went all the way up the stairs, came down halfway, went back up, and then went down. And it was so loud, I couldn't ignore it. And I'm like, maybe somebody got out? So I grab my hydro jug, and I do exactly what you're not supposed to do. And I go out there, and I look, and I swear there's nothing on those stairs. And when I looked, my heart sunk into my chest. So I go downstairs, and I'm like, well, I'm going to just make sure that all the dogs are in their kennels. And I look over, there's a dog in the hallway, and there's 2 dogs in their kennels. and the other dog is in the bedroom with me. So I know that it wasn't one of them crawling around making all that noise. So I called a couple friends and kind of told them what was going on. I'm like, this is really weird and it's kind of freaking me out. And I lay in bed, and around 10:30, I'm like trying to sleep. Like, I've got my eyes closed and it's quiet. I'm trying to sleep. And then the TV turns on downstairs. And at first I was like, I might be making this up. It's so quiet. But then the dog next to me lifts up her head and pricks her ears and looks towards the door. And I'm like, oh no. So that happens, and I'm listening, and it sounds like people talking. I hear cars. It's definitely the TV in the living room. That's the closest TV. And I'm just freaked out. Like, I called another friend, and I'm like, dude, it's happening again. Like, the TV's on this time. This is the most interaction it has given me in the past 4 days. So eventually I start singing and I pray, because I'm like, oh Lord, please keep your hand on me. I'm scared to death right now. I'm scared to death. And the TV gets louder and then it cuts out. And I was like, okay, maybe that works. So I lay in bed. I pray myself to sleep. I played some calm Christian music, something to listen to that keeps the silence away, and something that would provoke the demonic energy to not be around me. And it's 12 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden the front lights cut out. Like, they stream through my windows. Every night they stream through my windows, and I should shut the blinds, but I don't. But that's how I know the light is always there. It just cuts out. I thought the power went out. I thought the whole power went out. I look out the window across the street, all the other lights are on. I look at my phone, it's still charging. So I'm like, okay, it's not the power, it's just the front lights. I mean, this house is huge. This house is so huge. And I've never had this, like, ominous feeling before. But I'm here for another week and a half by myself, and I'm terrified. I've never been scared to stay in this house. I've never locked my bedroom door. The only door I ever locked was the bathroom door. But I am locking my bedroom door every single night. And I don't want to be out in the hallways or by the stairwell when it gets dark. When I get back, I'm going to pray over the house. I have worship music playing in the living room while I'm at work today. All the dogs are put away, and I'm just going to pray over the house. Maybe leave my Bible on the stairwell after I read a couple scriptures, but I just wanted to stop. I can't explain the feeling that I had when I started, like, singing, like, worship music to get it to stop, and the TV got louder. Like, my heart literally sunk into my chest. Like, I got so cold. And then again, when the lights turned off, my heart, I'm not even kidding, my heart stopped in my chest. So hopefully after we do, like, a mild cleanse of the house, I'll do what I can, but I'm not experienced with all this kind of things, but hopefully a mild cleanse would help the rest of this day, because I am absolutely terrified. And I hate being alone. I really hate being alone. So I'm just putting this video out there to kind of spread awareness, and also if y'all pray for me, that would be really, 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 really appreciated. But if you're gonna say something to freak me out in the comments, please don't. I'm already freaked out. This is the most interaction I've ever had from some sort of evil spirit, but just pray for me, and please don't try to freak me out in the comments, because I am so on edge right now. It would very easily work, but yeah, that's my experience. I will update you guys if anything else crazy happens. Like I said, I'm going to be here for another week and a half, so there's no telling.
What worries me and also confuses me is the fact that she's been there before and stayed there before and never had an issue like this. It's like, maybe did someone bring something in, or like, what's going on here that all of a sudden this would just start happening to her? It also makes me worry for the dogs, because obviously they have to be locked up during the day. Some dogs have to be put in crates for their own safety, and even if they aren't in crates, they have to be locked up in the house during the day, and they're alone with this thing. Obviously I would assume that if this is a regular occurrence, they're kind of used to it, which does make me a little bit sad. But it kind of bothers me a little bit that these dogs are potentially being like left home alone and or locked in crates while there's this like entity going around, and like hopefully leaves them alone. Obviously not good that it's bothering her either, but it's just like, it's so crazy to me that she's having all these little experiences, like first starting with the noise in the hallway, first thinking that maybe the dog somehow got out and hearing stuff, and then like the lights shutting off at the front of the house. Unless the light bulbs both simultaneously went out, that'd be a pretty uncommon thing to happen. It for sure does make me worry for her safety. Overall, like for sure a very, very scary situation, and again, it makes me wonder like why all of a sudden, if she's been familiar with this place before. I just hope that everything is okay and, you know, nothing bad happens while she is staying there. Our next TikTok is for the user RobotMom3. She shares with us a story about a time she believes a ghost took a picture of her and then potentially put her in the hospital.
Okay, y'all, quick story time on how a ghost took a picture of me and then I was hospitalized soon after. Now, bear with me because I'm not a storyteller, but I have a lot of stories to tell, so I'm gonna try to get better with it. So this incident happened way over a decade ago. I was like 18, I'm 35 now. So I had this guy that I used to send pictures, like videos to, like of me dancing. He loved to see me dance, and he made music, and I used to always go to the studio with him and whatever. But he had tragically passed away in a car accident, right? So this one time after he had passed, I had made a video, like I was dancing. I don't like professionally dance, not like a stripper or something. I was at home. Imagine back then my phone did not have a front camera, so I had to turn the phone around, prop it up so it could watch me dance. So I was dancing to Trina Look Back At It. I was twerking. Like, I don't even know why I was doing that. That's neither here nor there. I was young. So I'm dancing, like twerking. I'm killing it. Like, look back at it. Look back at it. Girl, look back. So anyway, I go back to watch the video, and you know, I had to pick the phone up and watch the video. I wanted to make sure the angles was good and everything was popping. So behind me though, while I was dancing, my closet was ajar. So when I went to go watch the video back, I seen like something moving in the closet on the video, because I'm like, what the fuck? So then it took like a picture. It took like it was like a flash, but the silhouette was like a skull. So it was like dark right here. It was dark, but it was white, like a white shadowy figure. And I was like, am I tripping? And mind you, I was still staying with my mom. I think I was like 17, 18. I had just moved out when I was 18, so I had to be 17. So I'm like asking my mama, do she see it? She like, I did just see that flash. And she like, what the fuck? I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm like, what's going on? So I start going crazy. Not going crazy, but I couldn't believe it. I start asking everybody's opinions. So I stayed in the hood. And there was a place up the street where a lot of guys just standing, but I knew them, they was cool or whatever. So I was asking a couple people, like, do you see this? So this one guy, he had a crush on me, and I'm like trying to show him the video, make sure I wasn't tripping. I'm like, listen, you gotta pay attention to the closet. Do not pay attention to me shaking my, because I had a fat ass back then. Don't pay attention to me. He's looking at the video, and I'm like, you see? He's like, oh wait, play it back, because I wasn't paying attention, because he was too busy looking at me dancing. I'm like, listen, you really have to pay attention to the closet. He's like, okay, let me do it again. And he look, and he's like, you gotta play it back real quick, because I wasn't paying attention. I got distracted. I'm like, listen, really? So he finally was like, damn, I do see it. It was like a little flash, like they took a picture of me. And the whole time I'm like, this gotta be Vernon. Like, this gotta be Vernon, the one who passed away that I used to be sending the videos to. I said, this gotta be him, because ain't no way. Like, that's crazy. And I didn't have no bad vibes at that time. So I asked at least 20 people, because I just could not get over it. And everybody, they witnessed it, and they seen the shadow and they seen the flash. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I ain't tripping. So maybe like a week later or so, I had got this really, 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 really bad headache, to the point where I couldn't even see. I couldn't even open my eyes, and my head was throbbing. I always suffer from migraines, but this one was different. Like, I had to go to the hospital. Like, I could barely swallow. The light was bothering my eyes. And I'm like, something going on. So my friend at the time, he's still my friend to this day, and he a witness to the story too. He took me to the hospital. They admitted me. They diagnosed me with meningitis. It wasn't like the point where I'm losing limbs and stuff, but it was bad. So they had put all my stuff in the, those bags, you know, they put all your belongings in, those clear bags, those hospital bags. They put all my belongings in there. I wasn't even thinking about my phone because I was in so much pain. And then they gave me like some morphine, so I was on 10. I was like high as fuck. I really didn't know what was going on. And he was there with me. So I think they had me in there for like 2 days. So when it was time for me to leave and I got better, my friend came and got me. And I'm like, where my phone at? And he like, I don't know. I'm like, what you mean you don't know? I was literally looking for my phone. My phone was gone. And I feel like it's a reason why, because I was just showing too many people what was going on with that video. And I'm like asking the nurses staff. I kept going back to the hospital. And I kept asking my friend, like, you sure you ain't taking my phone? But me, I'm cool. Like, I know he wouldn't do nothing like that. Ever. And we still cool to this day. He went up to the hospital every day. I'm like, somebody stole my phone. And I'm just like, it's not a coincidence that video that I got in that phone is evidence that phone disappeared. And I just didn't understand it. To this day, I don't know what's going on. But I wanted to tell that story. There's a lot of paranormal things happen to me. That's not the only thing. I also have a story time where my mama was possessed by a demon. And I actually have footage of that. So if y'all want that video, definitely let me know. And there was witnesses there. My kids was there. We all witnessed it. And I also have a story time on how my brother, who passed away, we think he called us inside his urn, like his ashes. That's another one. And I have another one after that. Like, stuff be happening to me, and I'm like, I think I'm different, and that's okay. Everybody different. I'm not like a bad different, but I did want to let y'all know that my phone got stolen or disappeared after I exposed that there was a fucking ghost in my video taking a picture of me while I was dancing to Trina look back at it with my fat old booty right there. I had this long ponytail. Like, y'all know I used to wear the long donkey ponytails. I had an Aeropostale collar shirt on. It was purple. I had some plaid shorts that had purple, orange, and like brown in it. So like that was what we was wearing back then. And I was like, you know, getting it with my long ponytail, like feeling good. And that goes it just threw my whole vibe off after I watched my video back. But just tell me if y'all want another story time, and I got y'all.
This is a crazy story, like two very, very different things going on here between the picture, like the flash coming from the closet, and then the phone disappearing while she has meningitis. I definitely think they could be linked, but also could be two completely separate instances. I really don't know how you would explain the fact that there's like a flash, like a picture being taken from the camera, and the fact that she like saw an outline of a person in her closet when no one was in there. Like, that's, I feel like, to me is pretty unexplainable. And then on top of it, obviously we have her getting sick, which, like I said, could be completely unrelated. But also the fact that she said they caught it kind of early is something really interesting to note there too. However, the phone, it very well could just have been a mistake that they misplaced the phone. I know, like, sometimes things happen, and obviously I think this was quite a while ago. I'm sure places were understaffed back then too, but these days, like, hospitals and medical places are very understaffed, so it's very possible something just slipped through the cracks. But it does make you wonder if maybe something didn't want her showing that video around anymore. What do you guys think? Our next two TikToks are from the user Marin Alder. I'm going to show you these two TikToks back to back. In these TikToks, she tells us that she works in advertising and she was helping to shoot a commercial in what turned out to be a very, very haunted hospital that was actually featured on Ghost Adventures multiple times.
Tell me, what's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life?
So I work in advertising where we produce and shoot commercials for various clients. One of the commercials we were working on required a set that looked like a 1980s Irani hospital. And we're Utah based, so that's something that's really hard to find here. Luckily, our producer tracked down this it had been an old nursing home and a mental hospital back in the day, and it was no longer in use. It was really old and kind of grungy looking. It was perfect. We go there, and as soon as I walk through the door, I just feel this bad vibe, like in the pit of my stomach. I just felt gross. It was just this weird energy in that building, and it's kind of funny because our art director walked in the door. Well, this isn't funny, but as soon as he walks in, he just throws up all over the place. And I don't know if he had been sick before, but he was definitely extremely sick in that building. He ended up curling up on an old hospital bed and just throwing up the rest of the day. I actually had to go buy him a bucket because he was so sick. He probably should have gotten the heck out of that place, but I think he was too sick to drive even. I felt so bad. Anyway, on our lunch break, I was talking to our hair and makeup lady, and she knew a little bit more about the building because I went in completely blind, and she was like, yeah, a lot of weird things have been known to happen here. And there's a lot of weird stuff in here. There's supposedly this old electroshock therapy chair in the basement. And I was like, oh, I want to go see the electric chair in the basement. That sounds like a fun adventure, you know, and being naive and just wanting a thrill. I was like, oh, let's go explore. And we had the whole building locked down for ourselves. There was no one else but our film crew there. So together we just kind of go prancing through the hallways, looking in rooms, and we get to the edge of this really long hallway that's completely covered in a green carpet. And she goes, oh my gosh, this is called the Green Mile. I've heard of this. And I'm like, what's the Green Mile? And she said, it's the hallway where they used to wheel patients out to surgery. And there's a lot of stories about this hallway. And as soon as we're standing there, she all of a sudden just freezes and like looks down into the abyss of the hallway, you know, towards the end. And I follow her gaze, and this door comes open and this huge figure just glides across the hallway. And it's completely black. It's kind of like distorted, oblong, humanoid, but bulbous. Its head was like kind of bulbous, and it just glides across the carpet, goes into this other door, and that door just slams shut. I'm in complete shock. We are just staring frozen down this hallway, and I'm gonna have to do part 2. Sorry guys. Welcome to part 2. So I just got done describing how we were on the edge of this hallway called the Green Mile, me and my friend, and we see this distorted, shadowy figure pass from one side of the hall to the other. I'm just in pure shock. I don't know what to do. My friend grabs my arm and she's like, did you see that? I don't know what to say. And then she shakes me again. She goes, did you see that? And I'm like, yeah. And then she just starts running, and I come to my senses. I'm like, don't leave me. And I just run after her. We run back to our film shoot location, the hallway where we're having luncheon, and we just get there. We're just like completely out of breath. Everybody's like, what happened? We're too creeped out to even talk about it. So after this shoot, I want to do as much research as I can about this place. I look it up, find out that it's been on Ghost Adventures twice. It's considered the most haunted place in Utah. They even do ghost tours there sometimes. And I had no idea going in. So I had this big urge to just like talk to somebody about this. So I found out that the owners of the building were going to be at this local comic convention. So I go there. They're giving this little presentation on this documentary on the old mental hospital. But it's not what you think. It wasn't really ghost related. But after the presentation, I go up to them and I just tell them about my experience, and they look at me like I'm completely normal. The first person who looks at me like I'm completely normal after telling this story. And they're like, oh yeah, you saw one of the shadow people. And I was like, shadow people? And they're just like, yeah, there's all these shadow people that live in that hallway. We don't know what they are, but there's all these nurses who used to work there who would see them on the camera, and they're always in the Green Mile. Sometimes like a nurse would get stuck in the Green Mile because a shadow person would like cut her off or crawl on the ceiling. And for some reason it was like comforting to have that confirmation that I wasn't crazy, but also even more terrifying to have the confirmation that I wasn't crazy, because now I know that what I saw was legitimate. Anyway, I don't think I'd ever go back to that place. Like, you couldn't pay me to go back to that place.
I think it's so crazy that she just went into this place ready to do work, and she's coming away with what I would assume to be a life-changing experience. The fact that she had, no intention of going in there and seeing a shadow person or anything like that, and that is what she came away with, is pretty crazy. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the best experiences are the ones that you are not expecting. Just like this. Honestly, I think it would be kind of a fun experience to be able to explore an abandoned hospital and experience something like this. While I'm sure I'd be pretty freaked out at the time, but not knowing like the extent of the hauntedness, I think would kind of give me confidence to explore a little bit more. It's a really unique kind of experience going into this place, being unaware of the history and how haunted it is, and just witnessing something for yourself. Whereas I'm sure most people who enter this building are going in there looking for something, and she kind of had the exact opposite experience. And if anything, like one of the most organic experiences that has probably happened in this place in a couple decades at least. Our next two TikToks are from the user Dave the Bearded Menace, who I have featured in a few of my videos before. We love him around here. The first story I'm going to share with you from him is titled The Light, and he shares an experience that his dad had while helping to fix up one of his childhood homes.
I grew up in a haunted house, and these are my stories. So our family history is kind of funky when it comes to like haunted homes. We've lived in 2 that I know of. So I think either things follow us or we just bring it out where we go. This house in particular, the story is about, was in New Jersey, and it was an old house. We used to live in New Jersey, and it was an old house that my parents bought that my dad took it upon himself to renovate while we lived there. So before we even moved in, the house was completely boarded up, and my dad was in the attic rebuilding the chimney. He was a mason, so it was like up his alley, and he had one long ass extension cord that went all the way to the only outlet that was working in the house, which was in the basement. And this extension cord went all the way up, all 3 floors from the basement to the attic, and he had like a little tiny light bulb on it to do his work. If you ever worked in any type of construction, you know more or less what I'm talking about. So he's working, doing his thing, and all of a sudden the light goes out. Now keep in mind, the house is boarded up, so it's pitch black in there. So he does the normal thing. He unscrews the light, shakes it to hear if it went out, and everything's fine. So he's like, that's weird. There must be a break in the connection. So he screws it back on, goes all the way downstairs, checks the connection, and then goes downstairs into the basement by himself in the dark, and he finds that the extension cord was unplugged from the outlet on the wall. So my dad decides to obviously plug it back in. And he was like, that's odd. Maybe me moving around unplugged it. So he wanted to make sure it was nice and in there, and it was a nice tight connection to the outlet. So he walks all the way back upstairs, and he gets back to his work area and his light. Goes to turn on the light. It's still dark. It won't turn back on. So he's like, what the hell? Unscrews the light bulb, shakes it, doesn't sound like it's out. And he's like, what the fuck? Screws it back in, goes all the way back downstairs. And sure enough, the light is unplugged. So he's like, all right, I have enough slack. I can tie this to something and plug it in. That way it's really not coming out if I accidentally pull it too hard. So he ties it up. He plugs into the outlet, makes sure it's a nice, like he said that you really had to like pull it out for it to come out from this outlet. It's plugged in, goes all the way back upstairs, and sure enough, the light is off again. So now my dad's like pissed. So this time he runs downstairs. He's like, there's no way in hell like I pulled this. I tied it up where even if I pulled on the slack, it's not coming out of the outlet. He gets downstairs, see that's unplugged again, and he just screams out loud, whoever's doing this, fucking stop. I'm trying to work. Plugs it back in, goes back upstairs, turns on the light works, and he finishes his day. Now again, this is a completely different house than the one here in Connecticut. That house also had a bunch of haunted stuff that I can talk about. So yeah, I'll let you know which is which between the Jersey house and Connecticut house, just so we're not confused. For instance, like the sound my brother heard someone coming up the back steps, the time my mom saw me jumping up and down the bed with a little girl, those took place in the Jersey house. Everything else is in the Connecticut house. But again, I will let you guys know which house I'm talking about when I tell the stories. Anyway, guys, that's my story for today. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, be easy, stay frosty, and may the force be with you. Peace.
I always think it is so fascinating when people like tell spirits what to do and they actually listen, like telling him to leave the plug alone and him leaving it alone. And I think it's like hilarious kind of that it's like, it seems like it's just a funny little spirit that it's like messing with him and is probably sitting there like silently giggling every time he comes back down to plug it in. And I'm sure in his position, like I would be so mad that I like have to keep coming downstairs and it keeps not working, it keeps getting unplugged. Like what the heck is happening? But that spirit was probably getting a kick out of it. And I hope it was nothing malevolent and it was just kind of like a goofy little spirit having fun. But it's just like, to me, it feels like very playful, like a little kid just messing with their dad or something like that. And it's so interesting to me that like stuff has been happening in that house from the very beginning. The next TikTok I'm going to show you is titled Cold Chill. He shares with us an experience he just had in his current house where he got this very ominous cold chill that is like nothing he's ever felt before.
I grew up in a haunted house, and this is my story. And excuse my appearance, friends. I'm actually on my way to the gym, but I needed to post something since I didn't get a chance to post yesterday, so I do apologize. Got busy with some family work stuff yesterday, so I couldn't really find the time to post, so sorry about that. So I'm making up for it today. So this is another very recent story. Like this literally happened yesterday, Friday the 22nd, like here in the condo. So it's kind of spooky-ish. I wasn't going to talk about it originally, but Mrs. Manish is like, you should, because it's kind of freaky. And I'm like, all right. So here we go. So I wasn't doing anything in particular. We were just hanging out in the living room and we're having a conversation about something. And I was going to go back into my home office here to finish the work day. And I got hit with like the worst cold chill like ever. And I don't know how to describe it, but it's like, you ever like jump into ice cold water and not expecting to be as cold as it is? That's what it kind of felt like. So my whole body convulsed. And like, I remember my face kind of like twitching a little bit. It's almost like I was having like a Dave.exe program fail moment. You know what I mean? Like everything just kind of like froze for a second. And Mrs. Menace was like, she thought I was like having a stroke or something. Cause like I was there for a bit, like just frozen. And then it went away. And like my entire body was covered with goosebumps. Like the beard was everything was standing up. Like I got spooked. And she was like, what happened? I'm like, I just felt like the worst cold chill I've ever felt, like in a while, like ever. Now, usually when you feel a cold chill like that, it's because they say that it's one of two things. Either A, a spirit just walked through you, or B, someone stepped over your grave, like in the future. You know what I mean? So yeah, what was it possibly? And very recently I've been having a lot of like really effed up dreams, like very effed up dreams. Well, even like a really effed up dream last night actually, where, I mean, hopefully it doesn't like trigger anyone, but in the dream I was, pew-pewed basically twice. And I felt like I felt the collision like in my face and in my chest. And then I remember falling over in the dream, like onto the ground and not being able to move. And it's all pitch black. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've been unalived. Like this is it. This is how I go. And then I started waking up like in my bed, kind of like on my stomach, like, laying on my side. So it's like, what was that about? And recently I've been having several dreams like that. They're just kind of just weird. I end up getting pew-pewed in the dream, or just very odd stuff recently. So I don't know, either I'm going crazy or there is something in the house that walked by me and said, oh, look at this guy, and just walked right through me. But let me know what you guys think. That is my story for today. So I know it's not one of the old school ones from the haunted house or any of the haunted houses, but it happened. Mrs. Menace suggested it, and it's like a good idea to talk about it and see what you guys think. Who knows? Maybe someone else has had that same experience, so let me know. If you made it this far, quick update. I am going to be changing my posting schedule a tiny bit. Usually I do a smattering of follower stories and my stories. You guys are sending me a ton of awesome follower stories, and I want to read them. I want to get to them all. I want to give them the respect that they would deserve because you guys sent them to me. So, I am going to basically start telling follower stories 4 days a week and save my stories for Fridays. Only because I need to catch up. I have right now maybe 50 or so stories in the queue, and every day I get like 2 or 3 more from you guys. So thank you for that. And if you guys want me to share one of your stories, just send it to me here on TikTok, DM it to me. Let me know if you want to be anonymous or if you want me to tag you in the story, and just tell me the story. Don't tell me you have a story and then wait for my response, because you probably will not get a response because I have so many stories and messages to go through. So thank you again for sharing, guys. And again, let me know if you want to be tagged or not. And yeah, just tell me the story. Let me know what you think of the new posting schedule. I'm going to be doing that for a bit. And I am working on a YouTube. I know many of you guys have asked me about YouTube. That is happening. I am working on one. It's the same username at Dave the Bearded Menace on YouTube. There's like some gaming content on there right now, nothing too crazy. But I do plan on doing deep dives into haunted locations. I'm going to start first here in Connecticut and then move my way around doing deep dives into haunted places. Will I go ghost hunting in these places? Hopefully, maybe. That's something I've always wanted to do. If you guys know of anyone that I can tag along with, I would surely love it. But yeah, that's what's going on today. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. As always, be easy, stay frosty, and may the force be with you. Peace.
Honestly, this one kind of freaks me out a little bit for him. Especially with him describing the dreams he's been having, it does worry me a little bit that it's like something not so nice is trying to get a hold of him, which I really hope is not the case. Obviously, it sounds like from his history, he is way more versed in the paranormal than I am in terms of like experiences that he's had. So it doesn't seem like he's particularly concerned, more as he is like a little bit confused and just like shocked by the experience. So I think the fact that he's not like concerned and freaking out is a good thing. However, like again, I am a little bit worried about the fact that like it was such a like shockingly, startlingly cold experience in congruency with these dreams. It is a little bit weird. But definitely like my first thought before hearing the dream part was that something kind of passed through him. I've never actually heard the stepping over the grave thing before, which I think is really, really fascinating. It's something I definitely want to look into more. But yeah, my first thought was just like something passed through him and it just like kind of froze him up for a minute. But again, I am a little bit concerned about the dream aspect of everything. Although, you know, I don't know, maybe certain things could be said for the types of dreams I have. So maybe it's nothing to worry about. The next TikTok I'm going to show you is by the user, the ADHD Fairy. She acts out an experience that her mom had one time while riding horseback and coming across a strange man. I wonder who he was, like if he was just like floating. I wonder if maybe he had an accident and like his spirit's just kind of wandering, or I don't know, maybe just died from natural causes and then decided to wander that area of land. I don't know, but it is so interesting that it's like she spotted him from afar and went to go approach him and he's just floating. I don't really know what I would do in that situation. And honestly, I wish there was like more of a story to it, but I really wanted to include this because like the concept of that happening is pretty darn freaky. Our next TikTok is by the user, the Ash Marie. She shares with us a story of a very, very haunted house and her time living in it.
Stop scrolling so I can tell you a scary story. Stop scrolling, okay? You here? Are you here? Okay. All right. Let's get into it. Let me tell you about the house I grew up in, okay? It wasn't just haunted. It was wrong. Now, once we moved in, things started off very small, like the TVs turning on and off, lights flickering on and off, okay? And this was a very old house. We would hear footsteps in the hall at night when there was literally nobody there. Beds were sinking, and sinking as in like someone, you know, like when you sit on a bed and the bed sinks, like that kind of sinking, except obviously no one was fucking there. But the house wasn't just haunted. It's gonna sound crazy, but it was alive, okay? And it wanted my mom.
She was one that was very receptive to it. She was very into the paranormal. She was into ghosts. She was into that shit. And maybe that's why it targeted her first. I don't know. At first it was very mild, like I said, but then it got violent and it was kind of fucking scary. She'd wake up choking, gasping for air, okay, as if someone was strangling her and then let go. No one was in the room, okay? It was just me and my mom at this point. She would tell me that she saw this girl, and it was a little girl, blonde hair, in a white nightgown, and she would be running up and down the hall. Like I just said, footsteps running up and down the hall, okay? It was the little girl. So I thought. My mom chased after her thinking it was me, okay? Again, it was me and my mom. She walked into my room and I was sound asleep. Then came the Ouija board. And as y'all know, you don't fuck with the Ouija board. You don't fuck with it. My mom bought this old Ouija board off of eBay, okay? And when I say old, I mean this thing looked like it was the first Ouija board ever fucking made, okay? From the moment that thing was brought into the house, shit just changed, okay? The energy shifted. And the energy was already off, but it shifted so bad. This is when the crazier shit started happening. And my mom became obsessed with it. And I mean, she would use it every single day, obsessed with it. And she carried that thing everywhere with her, okay? I'm talking to the bathroom, to the kitchen, to the living room, to her car. And she just kept saying it was calling to her. And it was calling her mama. And I don't like it. I don't like it. And then this is where shit hits the fucking fan, okay? We started hearing scratching on the walls. As if it was kind of like something alive was in the wall and was trying to get out, okay? And obviously at first we're like, okay, maybe there's squirrels in there. Maybe there's rodents in there. Maybe we got mice, you know? Spoiler alert, we don't. And doors didn't just slam, okay? They would rattle. They would rattle violently, as if someone was trying to break through. There were also times we would hear things breaking from the kitchen, and of course we'd run down there and there was nothing broken. Like there was nothing. Nothing fell, literally nothing. Now one night, I woke up to my door opening. Not only was my door opening, but it was creaking, okay? And it was creaking back and forth, okay? My door was moving back and forth very slowly, just like this. I finally just yelled for it to stop, okay? I said, stop it, stop it. I was freaking out, okay? I was a little kid. I didn't know what the fuck this shit was at the time. Because I had to speak my piece, then it came for me. At this age, I didn't believe in any of this, okay? I didn't want to. But one fateful night, when everyone was upstairs, I wanted some orange juice, okay? So I went down to the kitchen. I passed the hallway, the same hallway that my mom saw that little girl in the white dress with blonde hair in. And that hallway always felt wrong. That hallway would make the hair on the back of my neck stand up. That hallway, you know, like those memes and TikTok videos where people are like, oh, when you have to go downstairs for a drink and it's dark and you have to turn the lights on and you run the fuck upstairs. Like, that was literally how I got through the hallway. I would run. It always just felt like something was staring at you, or stalking you, which is a better term to say because quite literally we were being stalked by this little ghosty ghost, okay? I finally make it to the kitchen and I make it to the counter. I poured my drink and then we used to have these bead curtains over our sliding door that was there, you know, like the beads you walk through. I don't know if they still make them nowadays. That shit just started swinging violently, okay? As if something has punched it. Okay, and I don't know about y'all, but growing up and still to this day, I punch my shower curtain, okay? My shower is when I vent, okay? You know, like when you punch a shower curtain, and if you don't, trust me, I am mentally stable occasionally. But it was like that, as if someone punched the fucking beads, okay? And of course, as a kid, I froze. And I just felt like something was behind me, okay? And in the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow fly by, okay? I know I wasn't crazy. I know what the fuck I saw, okay? So I took off, okay? I didn't run. I bolted to my room. Things only got worse.
One night, my mom heard loud ass banging, okay? I heard it too. Literally sounded like someone was taking a hammer to the walls, okay? But the next morning, my mom didn't just hear banging. No, okay? She heard scraping, as if someone above her, like, you know, someone on the next level, was dragging a chair across the floor. And that same night, I was going to the bathroom late at night. I woke up, I had to pee, okay? I wake up, it's probably middle of the night, probably 3 o'clock, you know, and I turn the light off in the bathroom, and I go to walk out the door, and bitch, I saw a shadow, okay? And it was a perfect shadow of a person. All black figure, no face, okay? Just the outline. I'm talking Shaquille O'Neal tall, okay? I mean, you could stack my body 5 times and that still wasn't tall enough. And I ran to my mom's room and I told her, and the very next morning she called a priest. He told us to cut the Ouija board into 7 pieces and burn it as far away as we could from the house. So we drove to a park, I think about 2 hours away. Okay, 2 hours. We drove 2 hours to burn this shit. Embers rose into the air. It was almost like it was fucking snowing. For a place that doesn't snow, the Ouija board was our snow. To be completely honest, after that, the activity did die down. We still never felt safe. No. And I think we were so traumatized by that, we still heard and felt things, but it wasn't, I'm not gonna say it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad. And about 1.5 years after, we actually moved, okay? And we moved to another house that is currently haunted, you know? Not sinisterly haunted, is that a word? If not, I just made it up, you're welcome. Okay, this one's fine, okay? It's like friendly ghosts, friendly spirits, and it is what it is, and it's rare that something actually happens. Even to this day, I mean, this happened about 25 years ago, okay? Even to this day, I think about it and chills run down my spine. And sometimes I just wonder, like, was it haunted? Like, was our house haunted? Or was it just something very sinister that wanted to take control? You know what I mean? Probably not, whatever. Have you guys ever experienced something like this? And if so, please drop it down below because I love reading these. And this is actually a story from one of my followers. So shout out to you, boo. She did not want to share it, but she did feel comfortable enough sharing it with me, and I absolutely adore that. So if you guys have a paranormal experience that you don't want to share, but you want me to share it, just send me a message and I got you, okay? I said it once and I'll say it again. Stop fucking with Ouija boards. And there's people like, well, I messed with them and nothing happened. Well, hooty hoo for you, boo. Must be nice. Hell no. Hell no. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I love you. And yeah. Let me know what you want to see next. Love you.
There is so much to unpack in this, and I really want to hear your guys' opinions on everything because there's just a lot going on here. But the thing that I really wanted to discuss is the fact that she says that her mom has this very weird attachment to a Ouija board, an old Ouija board at that, meaning it's been through some stuff. It's, you know, it's got energies and it's had experiences. It's talked to many spirits. It's been around the block a few times, which I think makes it far more dangerous than a brand new one, if possible. And the fact that she has this kind of weird connection with it, I think is very concerning, to say the least. Like, to me, that is the biggest point I want to focus on. I want to hear your opinions on the rest of it. I just really think that is not good at all. You know, you all know my opinions on Ouija boards for sure by now. I do not believe people should be messing with them. Professional, teenager, or otherwise, I do not think people should be messing around with them. I think it opens us up for way too much potential danger. Our next TikTok is for the user Lauren Purdon. She shares a story with us about her demon in her upstairs.
Y'all want to hear about the time a demon lived upstairs in my house? So we bought our first home last year, November of 2023. There had only been 2 families that had lived in it prior to us. It was originally a 3-bedroom and 2-bath home, but the man that lived in it before us had converted the attic to an upstairs living space with a bathroom in it as well for his 19-year-old son. I believe that they lived here for several years until the son got into a car accident and unfortunately passed away. He did not pass away in this home, and let me make this clear that I do not believe that spirits are people that are left behind. I believe that they are all demons. So when we first toured the home, we went upstairs and it did feel a little off, but I think that we were just so excited about the prospect of buying a home that we didn't really pay much attention to it. However, a few days after we moved in, we started having multiple experiences. So within the first couple of days, we started hearing a lot of noises upstairs. It would sound like somebody was walking upstairs. We would hear bangs and crashes. Our kids would have their doors opened at night. We would see things in our peripheral vision. I started dealing with very severe depression and crying spells. It was awful. So naturally, we went upstairs to pray it out. And while we were upstairs, I really felt like the Lord told me that something was hidden up there. So we began checking all the places that we thought something might be hidden. So we started in the bedroom, worked our way through the hallway, checked the crawl space that was in that room, and then I headed towards the bathroom where there was another crawl space. As I got to the door, I opened up the bathroom door and immediately something slammed it right back in my face. I called for my husband. He came over there with me. He got in that crawl space and almost immediately found a box that had been covered by insulation. When we opened this box, we found a bunch of alcohol bottles that were either empty or mostly empty, but we also found a tore up white t-shirt that looked like it had blood on it. So we immediately grabbed it and went to go dispose of it, and the Lord spoke to my husband and told him to anoint the threshold of the door that is at the top of our stairway. At this point, we knew that it wasn't gone, but we knew that we needed to start praying and fasting, since the Bible says that some of those things only come out with prayer and fasting. However, anointing the threshold of the door kept it up there. It could not cross that anointed line beyond the door, and you could tell it was mad. The banging footsteps and just the general activity upstairs increased because the demon was so angry that we had locked it upstairs. It was around Christmas at that time, and I do lighted garland around my stairway, so every night before bed, one of us would have to go over there and unplug it before we went to sleep, and you could literally see at the top of the stairway a 6 or 7 foot giant black man-looking creature just staring and seething at you. So this is my stairway, and you can see up there is where I'm talking about that we anointed that threshold, and you would see something right there just standing and staring at you. So we ended up actually calling about 6 of our friends and asking them to come pray through the upstairs with us and also be fasting with us to try to get this thing out of there. And we didn't plan it this way, but it just turned out that none of them could come on the same night. So it ended up being like 2 could come on Wednesday, 2 could come on Thursday, and 2 could come on Thursday. So there ended up being 3 nights consecutively of us praying through the upstairs. So the first night, one of my friends was coming, and I was on the phone with her as she was pulling into my driveway. And as she pulled in, she immediately said, "Who's upstairs?" And I said, "Nobody's upstairs." And she said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Somebody is standing at your upstairs window, just staring at me through the window." When I tell you, when you crossed the threshold of that upstairs door, full body chills, like you knew something up there hated you. Every single person that we brought up there through those 3 nights literally would stop as soon as they got over that threshold of that door and be like, "Oh my gosh, what is up here?" When I tell you we slathered that upstairs in oil, we slathered it in oil. Thankfully, the 3rd night, you could visibly feel something release and leave, and we haven't had any issues up there since until recently. All of a sudden, I started doing these videos exposing these spirits, and lo and behold, we've started having noises again. I'll take you guys up there for a tour in my next video just so you can kind of see what it looks like, and maybe you guys can let me know what you feel or what you see. Let me know if you have any stories similar to mine and what you did.
I am baffled by the fact that she says every time they go to unplug the garland on the stairs that he is just standing there at the top. If there's ever a time to move, it's when you can physically see a figure standing at the top of the stairs, like taunting you and watching you. The fact that it's like they locked him up there, obviously, like if they didn't, he would for sure have free reign of the house. I do not think that there is anything good about this spirit. Along with the fact that her friend sees this thing as she's pulling up to the house. Asking who is upstairs is crazy. When there is no one up there, no thank you. That would have done it for me. That right there. I would be out of there so fast. But yet, she stayed. And it seems like them praying over the house and the upstairs really seemed to help. Although, then she says that, talking about it and obviously giving it attention has kind of started more activity from appearing again, which, as we know, is what happens when you start to give attention to things. And obviously it's not her fault. That's just unfortunately how things are. But it seems like for a while, their prayer worked to kind of keep this thing at bay. And things were a lot better than they once were. So I'm hoping that as she's talking about this and sharing the story with us, that it is not making things that much worse for her. Our next TikTok is by the user Drewiz. She shares with us a story about a haunted house she lived in and its effects on her younger sister.
So a little bit ago, I commented on a haunted video of someone passing by a house that had like flashing lights in the basement, and I commented saying that, flashing lights is nothing because my family and I lived in a haunted house to the point where it was so haunted we had to move states. And a couple of you want a story time, and just to let you know, it's a long behind story. Also keep in mind, this was a very, very, very long time ago. Like over 2 decades ago, because I'm very old. Also, don't mind my my neon shirt because I just got off of work. Anyway, so let's get to the point. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. Not technically Boston. I just say Boston because a lot of people, when I say Massachusetts, they're like, oh my god, what is that? I grew up in a town called Lynn. At the time, my family and I were living in this huge house, but it was like split into like apartments. My family and I, so it was me, my dad, my sister, and my mom. We lived on the first floor of this house. And if any of you are from Massachusetts that are watching this, you would know like how these multifamily houses are created and how the layout is kind of like old-timey almost. And basically everything in Massachusetts is old and very haunted and very spooky and old. Coming from a Vietnamese Cambodian family, my mother, who's a Vietnamese woman, she's a very superstitious person. Like, she believes in all of that, like, witchy stuff, that karmic stuff, that voodoo, hoodoo, paranormal stuff. Also, I just want to apologize for that stain on my car, and also I want to apologize for this story kind of being wonky because, again, this was like 2 decades ago. This house always had like such a heavy, eerie feeling, and I was about 8-9 years old at the time when we lived there. And my younger sister, she's about 7 years younger than me, like 6-7 years younger than me. We would play hide and seek all the time. And whoever is into paranormal stuff, playing hide and seek is not a smart thing to do. So one of the instances where it started happening, like all these spooky stuff started happening, was when my younger sister, she was about 2 years old at the time, we were playing hide and seek. I went looking for her everywhere, right? I went looking in my room, the kitchen, the bathroom, everywhere. I ended up going into my parents' bedroom where she slept, and I opened up my parents' closet, and I was feeling around in there because, like, there's no light in there. It's not like these walk-in closets. It's just a door and then close. Well, I'm feeling around, and I felt a knee, and then I felt little fingers, like little hands. I'm like, boo, I got you. Like, I found you, hide and seek is over. My little sister comes in with her bottle, and she goes, you didn't find me, like, no, you didn't find me. And I'm like, then who am I touching? I bolted the hell out of there. Okay, I grabbed my little sister, bolted the hell out of there. And that was when all the freaky deaky stuff started happening. Not Diddy freaky deaky, like paranormal freaky deaky. So then a week later, my younger sister, she got very, very sick randomly. And at the time, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was working a little bit further away. He worked third shift, so it was just me, my sister, and my mom at home. She got really sick, like really high temperature, where she was like seeing things, she was hallucinating. She kept saying over and over like she was seeing butterflies, but the one thing that stuck out to my mom, what freaked out my mom while I'm calling 911, is that my sister saw an old man trying to grab her. At this point, my 2-year-old sister was freaking out. She was crying, she was screaming. She's like at 107 temperature. Ambulance is on the way. I'm the only one that speaks English because my mom did not speak English. So it was very traumatizing for me as an 8-9-year-old. My mom had me grab my sister and her, and we ran out of this house. We waited for the ambulance outside. I tried to call my dad's job, let him know, like, hey, we're on our way to, like, this hospital with my sister in the ambulance. Wouldn't you know that as soon as we got into the ambulance and away from that house, my sister had no temperature. She was back to normal. Nothing was wrong with her. The hospital ran all tests on her, and nothing was wrong with her. Like, absolutely nothing. They discharged her that morning. So we might have gotten back to the house, like, at around, I want to say, like, maybe 7 in the morning. As we're going back to the house, my sister was asleep at this point. My dad's carrying her in. My mom and I, we kind of just, like, stopped. We stopped walking. Because as soon as we opened up the front door, it was a picture of me sitting on a nightstand. Not a nightstand, it was just like an end table in the living room. It was already like, so the way our end table for the couch, our couch was against the wall, and the end table was pinned against that wall in the couch, so it's not moving anywhere, right? There's only like one way, and if you pull it out. Well, my picture was all the way back, like pushed against the wall. It was like a picture of me from like my kindergarten graduation or whatever it was, or picture day. My mother and I and my dad, we watched my picture just like slide slowly across the end table and just smash onto the floor. Did we stay there that night? Yep. Everything leading up to that point just completely sucked. My mom was so superstitious. She thought that there were just angry spirits in the house, which there probably was. I mean, like, we're living in Massachusetts. Everybody's freaking angry. But she thought that by leaving out food, like literally offerings of food, would keep the spirits happy. No, ma'am, they were not happy. My room was in the kitchen area, right? My bedroom was in the kitchen area, and there was a door that separated the kitchen from the dining room and the living room. I don't know why my parents didn't love me enough to, put me in the other room closer to them, but, favorites. Every night, my TV would turn on and off by itself. I would hear scratches at the end of my bed. I would wake up with scratches along my arm, my face, my back. I would have severe nightmares where it felt so real, like this ghostly figure was trying to get me. Things would just fall out the drawers, out the cabinets. Lights are not just flickering, but doors are slamming. I'm pretty sure my mom talked to our landlord who lived upstairs from us, and we were like family friends at that point. So I was too young to be really told about anything, but everything was happening to me. It got to a point where it started causing problems in my parents' relationship too. And so what we ended up doing was we packed up all our stuff and we moved to New Jersey. I am telling you, as soon as we moved out of this home, everything just felt lighter. I'm a very superstitious person. I'm very heavy into the paranormal and all of that. And yeah, to this day, do I think it was like demonic? Absolutely. I think that house is like freaking haunted. I think there's still probably creepy stuff happening. Never again will I ever set foot into that house if I was ever given the chance to go back to my childhood home. Never. I have joked to my husband that I want to drive past the house one day, like if I ever take them back to Massachusetts and visit family. But I don't know if that's a good idea, because like I really feel like that whatever it was tried to attach itself to me and my sister. Whatever family is living there now,
you guys are brave. I hope there's nothing paranormal happening to you guys. Yeah. I was gonna make this like a series, but this is not really series needed. I mean, like, there's like a lot of stuff that happened that I guess I can talk about, because I really sound like I have ADD while I'm trying to tell a story, because I'm not a very good storyteller. Anywho, I have a lot more stories to tell. I mean, if you're interested, let me know in the comments, and maybe I will create a series on all the paranormal stuff that happened to me growing up. And I really need to get the card detail, because I don't know what that is, but it's gross. Okay, bye.
That hide and seek game really reminds me of The Conjuring, the movie specifically, and the whole hide and clap game with the wardrobe. Honestly, a pretty iconic scene. But the fact that this entity was making her sister so sick that they had to rush her out to get help that second, and the fact that as soon as they left the property, she's better again, is crazy. It is so crazy how these spirits sometimes can have that effect on you, that it makes you so unbelievably sick. Another thing that I find to be interesting is also the fact that it kind of caused like turmoil for their family, and then once they moved away, it just felt like a weight was being lifted off of them. It's like, I mean, for sure, like, these entities and their energies can for sure mess with yours and cause issues between you and other people, issues with your health. And that's why I think it's like so important to protect your energy and kind of keep an eye out for things like this. Obviously, there's only so much you can do, but you know, just being aware is a great first step. But it's like, it's so crazy the difference between some of these like goofy little spirits that like you tell them to stop messing around and they stop, and then these spirits here where it's like they're making a child unbelievably sick and causing turmoil throughout a family. It's just like, you know, people, there are good and bad things everywhere, and it is so crazy to hear these experiences of the bad things. Our final TikTok to kind of end on a higher note is by the user ViviSauce20. She shares a quick clip with us of paranormal activity caught at the hospital she works at. I think this is obviously a lighter note to end on than the previous one, but I think it's just like, again, so goofy how ghosts would just like mess with little sensors and stuff like that just for fun. Honestly, I think that'd be the best part of being a ghost, is that like no one can see you and you can just do random stuff like that, because like, why not? It's not like you have a job to get to. You can just mess with automatic doors and unplug people's extension cords all day long, because why not? Because like, I think it's funny to like kind of watch the goofy side of paranormal activity, and I feel like sometimes, at least the good ones, seem to be just like little toddlers. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said in the beginning, please tag me in any TikToks that you want me to include in a future video. Please check out my Instagram and my TikTok for some spooky special effects makeup content. And if you like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. I will pop a couple of video suggestions on screen here for you in a second. Please click the subscribe button down below and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I post every Sunday and sometimes Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Let me know your thoughts on the TikToks I showed you today, and you know, try and debunk anything if you can. I love to hear everyone's opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.